professional attorney. What do we see in the news today? In the news now, you hear me talk about this stuff, right? Oh, you need to get your plan in place, et cetera, et cetera. And I am very familiar, put it that way. I was going to say sick and tired, but I'm not really. I can deal with it. But I'm very familiar with the concept that many people have that, oh, uh, if I had X amount of dollars, or if I, whatever, then I would do planning. But I only have a house and a bank account and CDs and a 401k. So that's not smart for me. Well, that is just a lame. Did I say lame? Lame, without denigrating our disabled friends. Uh, it's a lame excuse, right? And how do you know? Well, news today, Leno, Jay Leno. Think about Jay Leno, right? Is there a more successful guy than Jay Leno? Well, Arnold Schwarzenegger, until he shot himself in the foot, whatever, wherever it was he shot himself. Yeah, I mean, you could say Arnold Schwarzenegger, because Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't even speak the language when he showed up, right? Jay Leno did. But, both super successful, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Well, Jay Leno's wife is now in probate court in California because she's got the dementia, right? She's got the dementia and no plan. Here's a guy with hundreds of motor vehicles. He could get a plan done for what it costs to put tires on one of his antique cars, right? Or one of his supercars or whatever, easily. And at LA rates, he could get it done for one of the supercars. Okay. Go ahead, go to the estate planner to the stars, right? You can spend more if you want to. You could, but you can afford it. Does he do that? No. And as the heat gets turned up, that whole idea, if you boil a frog slowly, the frog sits there and gets boiled. That isn't true. All right. They've tried this scientifically, I guess. I guess the frog will jump out of the pan when it starts warming up. Anyway, but it's a good analogy, right? The idea is that if you put someone in a very difficult situation, emergency situation, where they cannot deny what's going on around them, they'll respond effectively. They will respond. But if you can kind of put up with it and kind of put up with it and kind of put up with it, right? The temperature will go to the point where you boil yourself alive. Now, one of the most common comments whenever someone has the dementia, right? Very, very, it's typical. I don't say it's everybody, but it's almost everybody. Oh, we saw the sign, oh, now I reinterpret behaviors from the past 5 years, 6 years. I think this really started, and they pick an event, that was several years ago, right? Very few people recognize the signs and move on the signs immediately, all right? Or at the first instance. They wait and they wait and they hope it gets better and they think it gets better and it's really not that bad. And yeah, putting the cell phone in the refrigerator and the milk in the closet, that's yeah, anybody could do that. Okay. Trying to use the TV remote as a phone or whatever. All those things just happen. You make excuses for it. And apparently, so did Jay Leno, until we're at the point now where, according to the news report, now we're in probate court because his wife has dementia, and now he's finally doing an estate plan. Holy cow. Are you kidding me? And like I say, he's not a dumb guy. He's not, you don't get to take over the Tonight Show from Johnny Carson for crying. Johnny Carson, Jack Parr first, I guess, but really Johnny Carson turned the Tonight Show into a national, it bound the country together, right? And now we've got these late night idiots, who are all about dividing the country and chopping it up in little tiny bits, who hate each other. Well, Johnny Carson didn't do that, right? Jay Leno didn't do that. Okay. What's his name? Jimmy Fallon tried not to do that, and he got excoriated for it. He got Oh my God, he's the horriblest person in the world because he treated Donald Trump like a human being. Oh my God, oh, you can't do that. Apparently you can't. But my point is that Leno is a smart guy. Leno, the man in the street interview, show how dumb they were, that sort of thing, right? Pioneered an art form, if you want to call it that. Plus, he's a stand-up comedian. Yeah, stand-up comedian and trial lawyer, two very difficult jobs, very difficult. You got to think on your feet, you got to think fast, you got to think sharp, all the rest of it. So, smart guy. So how did he wind up in a situation where he's taking his wife to probate court? What, he didn't recognize the dementia? What? Right? It's not about being smart. It's not about being wealthy, right? It's about recognizing reality. It's a very human thing to wish that bad things didn't happen. And maybe there's a correlation between being successful, right? You've conquered all the rest of this stuff, you'll conquer this too. Well, that's TV movie stuff. It doesn't really happen. It doesn't really happen like that. And so if you're in a situation right now where you think, hey, I think my spouse has got the dementia. Well, if you're thinking it, you've probably been thinking it for the last 2 years. And when you finally wake up and smell the coffee, you'll be able to look back and say, oh, yeah, that happened X years ago, a certain number, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. When people finally admit to themselves what's going on and they reinterpret their history, then they start seeing it. Okay. That's and Mavis and Jay Leno, just the most recent examples of that, right? Failure to plan. Now he's planning. Oh, now he's going to get a trust done. Well, hurrah. Welcome to the club. We've got 20,000 families, I don't know, 21,000, something like that, who've done the trusts, who are doing these things, right? To protect their assets. Now, you don't have Jay Leno's wealth. You don't need Jay Leno's wealth. You just need what you've built up in your lifetime, right? And what you've built up will serve you if you plan correctly for it. Why didn't Jay Leno have anybody telling him that? Maybe he did. He just didn't listen. I don't know. I don't think he tunes into this radio show, but, think about it. I mean, who in your life is telling you, besides me, because you've always got me as sort of as a, I don't know, antagonist, right? Telling you need to get this done. But who else? Who else in your life is telling you? Maybe you should listen to them. And if you have been telling somebody to get planning done and they finally decide to do it, for God's sakes, don't gloat over it. You know what I mean? It's so destructive when people finally take positive action, right? And the people who've been urging them to take positive action are like, oh, well, finally, the thing is, if they finally do it, right? Love that, accept it. You finally made your point. They finally heard you. Hurrah! Right? Welcome that one back to the fold.